Beautiful. So Vitae Resources.
Yes.
That's how we say it.
Yeah.
Not Vitae.
Perfect. You might run past that like someone who knows classics or something and they'll slate it and say that's not how you pronounce it. But that's how we're running with
someone who knows classics. So obviously you're 22 and you've only been doing this for how long?
Just over a year now.
Just over a year. Yeah. And before that, what were you doing before that?
So I was kind of going back to school. So I played like rugby all my life at like a pretty high level. And obviously people always say, right, like you need a plan B. Mm-hmm. Never had a plan B. I kind of did actually. I was like, right, if this doesn't work, I'll just be a PE teacher. No real like reasoning behind that. I just thought that'll be all right.
It's a steady job.
Yeah. And then without kind of giving like the whole kind of story behind it, I just got to a stage where like in sixth form, just before sixth form, like just completely fell out of love with it. So kind of like, right, that's done. Don't really know what I want to do. Did some work experience doing like PE teaching and hated it. Well, I don't want to be a PE teacher.
So, what years were you teaching?
I think I was teaching like year like 7th and 8th.
So.
That is the little like rascals. It was good fun, but I just thought, don't want to do this like for the rest of my life. Yeah. So I'm in sixth form, like kind of a little bit lost. And I was like, right, I don't really know what I want to do. Yeah. So just because I thought, right, I'm all right at it, I took sport because I was like, at least there's something there that I know I'm all right at. And I was like, right, I want to do something to do with like business, like, you know, just as you do at that age. So I took like business and economics. Really enjoyed economics, to be fair, but I just wasn't like that great at like the real technical side of it. Mm-hmm. Enjoyed business, but kind of sort of still didn't really know what I wanted to do. Yeah. But so I kind of just went through sixth form, like got my head down, like got like all right grades and things like that. But towards the end of it, obviously at school, you know how it is, like everyone's like uni, it looks better for the school. Like, so they were like, right, Ellis, like look at uni, etc. I was like, I really don't know what I want to do. And my economics teacher at the time was absolutely class. Like probably one of the best ever teachers that I had. His mindset on things just wasn't like your traditional teacher. I remember I just went to see him one lunchtime and he was like, right, there's these degree apprenticeship things. You were like, I think this would be more suited to you. You'll start earning. You'll get out there, you get real life experience. And if you don't know, you know, exactly what you want to do, it's a great way to just get out there into the world and start getting experience and networking with people, rather than kind of, you know, going to uni, hating something and kind of going down that route. And for that time, it was like the sort of probably the best bit of advice that I got, and I'd probably recommend to anyone, even if someone is young and probably wanting to start a business, that's a great route to go down and even do it on the side, because there's so many bits of like real life experience that you get that stand you in great stead. Yeah, definitely. To take that route.
No, I like that. That's good. So like in terms of getting started on this, what is it that took you from, you know, being, you know, doing a degree apprenticeship, going down that route to actually finding yourself with a clothing brand?
Yeah, so like I said, going into the degree apprenticeship, I went into like supply chain and logistics, and like my first year was quite new. I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't. I never had an ambition that I want to go into supply chain and logistics. Like I said, I kind of just fell into that route. We wanted to do some sort of like business management, and I kind of like set myself some goals. Like I wanted to get like a senior management position by the end of it. And you know, even like a few other things, like right, I want to get a new car by the end of the apprenticeship, these sort of things. And like through a few opportunities that came quite early in my apprenticeship, and I managed to get there before the end of it. And I remember like getting all these things and kind of just going into work and just thinking, I don't feel like there's any sort of purpose here. Like I've achieved these goals that I set out to achieve by the end of my apprenticeship. I've achieved them early, and I just don't feel like any sense of fulfillment from it. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I kind of started struggling with it a bit and just sort of not enjoying it and getting in that phase where you're waking up thinking, oh, another day, and you just feel like you're stuck on that hamster wheel. And I'm kind of like, right, there's more to life, and there's more to me. Like I feel like if I'm here, I don't know what my potential is. I don't know what that avenue is at the minute. But I feel like if I stay here, I'm never going to find that. Mm-hmm. So like, right, what do I want to do? I need to pick something else up on the side. Like, I don't just want to identify with this. So I kind of looked into like a few different sort of like side hustles as you do. As like a young lad at that age. Dipped my toes in a couple of things like COVID. Obviously, everyone was crazy on the crypto.
Yeah. I saw our guests who were coming on this afternoon on their Twitter put like, if you haven't lost 300 quid trading Forex, then you haven't tried to be an entrepreneur.
I've never touched the Forex, but in the crypto, I was like, right, I'm not going to do it. Don't know enough about it, but I think it was just pure FOMO. Like COVID, like everyone's jumping on Xbox. You've got like a kid from school who was like clueless about everything. He's like, oh, I'm 250 quid up. Like, right, if this guy's doing it, then I've got to give it a little bit.
Around the time of all like meme coins popping.
Yeah, I've got to give this a go. And then I jumped in that and I'm like, right, this kind of it for me, like I need something a little bit more like tangible. So I did a little bit of Amazon FBA, and actually I did all right with it, like nothing like groundbreaking, but kind of got on the front foot with it. But I was like, right, do you know what, there's some money to be made here, but I don't, again, like it doesn't give me that fulfillment. Like if I was getting like a good result from it or whatever, I wouldn't get that like massive buzz, like I've achieved something here. So I kind of just took a bit of a step back, and I was sort of like thinking to myself, right, what, like if I could do anything. I remember I went on a walk and I just thought to myself, right, if I could do anything and I had a guaranteed chance that it was going to succeed, like what would it be? Yeah. And I'm like, it'd be starting a clothing brand. Because I remember like when I was younger, like I always used to go on like Nike ID. If you remember that, and like create like boots or create like football kits and things like that. And like I remember like when football kits used to come out, like at the start of the season, I used to get my dad to print them in like black and white, and I used to just colour over them in like different colours. So I've always just kind of had like a bit of a thing for like design and stuff like that. So I was like, right, if there was anything that I could do, it'd be starting a clothing brand. So I was like, right, why not give it a go? Yeah,
definitely. I'm sure compared to compared to Amazon FBA and stuff like that, considering it all comes from you with a clothing brand, you know, it's authentic to yourself, innit? You can make it exactly how you want, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and that's difficult, and that's definitely been a challenge, like since starting with the drops. But I think, sometimes you've got to try and make it a creative outlet of yourself. And I think with the drops that kind of replicate that, they're the ones that have been a little bit more successful. But yeah, like you say, it's building that brand. I think that's the bit that I enjoy about it too.
Yeah, nice man.
Nice man. I mean, to think that us three are sat around and all like the design, the material, everything that's gone into it has all come from you.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
This is beautiful, man. I'm super impressed by it. Not that I didn't think that you were capable of it, but I'm pleasantly surprised.
So I want to go into the behind the scenes of actually having a clothing brand. Yeah. Obviously, supply chains, designs, all that kind of stuff. So let's start from the beginning. How did you actually find your supplier?
So, funny one actually. So when I first started, like there was a lot of different like avenues that I went down. Dropped like a few cold like DMs out to people, but kind of weren't really sort of getting anywhere with it. Did a lot of Googling, and when you it depends what like sort of level you're on. Like you can find like really, really good suppliers like just through like Google searches and things like that. But I had no like connections in the industry or anything. And I literally kind of just by luck one day was on like an Instagram page of like a small clothing brand that I quite like the look of. Yeah. And I saw like, like on the Instagram likes where you can see like people that have liked it. Yeah, like one of the likes was like something manufacturer. I was like, oh, this could be good. And I clicked on it and it was a manufacturer. They didn't look great, but I was like, right, there's potentially something here. So I just started going on like small clothing brands Instagram pages, looking at their followers, and scrolling through and just finding like manufacturers in there. Because what you find is like a lot of like kind of manufacturers that are like looking for new business, or like go and kind of like as part of like their like sort of pipeline, or follow like smaller clothing brands and drop them a DM and things like that to try and get them on board. So I just started going through sort of like small clothing brands who kind of had sort of the same like sort of product portfolio of what I wanted to build out, and just literally scrolling through their followers and just finding.
It's a smart way of doing it.
It took a lot of time. I think that the sort of effort v reward sort of probably a lot of effort for little reward at the start. But to be fair, that's how I found out the first manufacturer.
Yeah.
Well, the second one actually, we'll go on to that a little bit later. But the second one that I actually got the first drop from, and it worked out well. So yeah, it's probably not a bad little bit of advice.
What was your kind of like
starting.
process? Were you like, right, I want a name, I want a logo, or I want a theme, or like what kind of came first in the process? Because it seems like there's so many different areas that you need to cover when starting a clothing brand. Like you need to create a brand from scratch. So like where did you start with that?
So I think from my point of view, I first started with sort of like the collection of products, and kind of the sort of vibe and like sort of area of the market that I wanted to hit in terms of that. So kind of like the silhouette, so like sort of like the oversized like boxy tees, the oversized hoodies, sort of that kind of like streetwear element, but not a sort of street end as like a Cortez or something like that, but kind of not as sort of like high end as like a Cole Buxton, kind of somewhere like sort of in the middle. Because I think it's great if you kind of build brand and create a great name, but ultimately you've got to have a real solid product under that to compete in the market. So I kind of started off like literally just in my spare time, like just drawing up like kind of blank designs, and like just putting like an X where a logo would be or something like that. And then once I kind of had like, right, the vision in terms of this is my sort of product base that I want to start with, then it was time to sort of think about, right, name and building brand, and sort of kind of building the blocks behind that, really.
Interesting.
Yeah. So obviously you've touched on the Latin name and stuff, but where did that kind of originate from in terms of coming up with that?
So going right back to the start, I kind of thought of, do you remember, like, to be fair, they're still Latin now, but remember like Nike Miler t-shirts?
Yeah.
The ones with like the silver, like reflective.
Everybody had one of them back in the day.
Like when they were like first like on the scene and everyone was getting one, I remember like people like were wearing them everywhere, like not even just for like fitness stuff, but like I remember we went on like a lad's holiday and everyone rocked up to the airport.
Yeah, when we were in Zambia and Napa,
everyone
wearing
it. And like back then, that was a little bit more my vibe. Yeah. So I was like, right, these Nike Miler t-shirts, like everyone loves them, everyone's wearing them. I'm going to create a Nike Miler that you can wear to like a club. So it's going to be like a Nike Miler design.
It's ambitious.
But I'm going to rebrand it. It's not going to be sportswear material. It's going to be like a high quality, nicer tee that you'd wear out to a club. And that was kind of like the first product. And I built like a brand name from there and things like that. I got a sample. At the time, I was super gassed, but the sample was actually pretty poor quality.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, this is it. Like this, I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna like get the Instagram made. I'm gonna get my first bulk order in. Let's go. I need to register this company first. Went on, searched the brand name. Someone had already took it. Another men's like streetwear clothing brand. And I was like, like literally, I thought like game over. Like I was absolutely distraught. Like proper sent me, and I'm like, right, I need to sort of like get back to drawing board. But probably like the best thing that could have happened, because that brand name at the time, it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And then I was like, right, it just made me think on a deeper level. So I was like, right, I don't just want to be putting a logo on a tee like any other brand. Right, there's a reason I started this brand that I think connects with the people that I want to be my customers. So let's build that into the brand and let's sort of make it like represent something. So I was kind of like, right, I want this to be like the brand for like young people sort of like ourselves who want to sort of make that step to live life on their terms and kind of, cheesy as it sounds, like chase whatever that dream may be. I want it to be like lifestyle wear for them people.
Yeah.
So basically just, for lads like us to push and pursue like the best life that they can possibly have. So like, right, life, it's about like optimizing like your life. So I was like, just up late one night, right, life, how can I turn this into a brand name? Like definitely not using life on its own. And just play with like a few concepts. And I'm like, right. And then just started searching like, right, life in other languages, like French, Spanish, this sort of thing. And then like got to like life in Latin, and I'm like, Vitae, sounds quite cool that. Yeah, let's go for that. So it was just that combination of it having some meaning, but it also kind of still sounding cool and sounding in place.
It's literally the exact same as us. We sat on FaceTime one rainy Saturday afternoon in like April, and we were like, right, we wanted to play with the word development. So the podcast is called Progress With Us, and we want to kind of like see our journey from going from being just 19 to doing it for however long. We're like, right, we can't just call it development because it just doesn't sound good.
Yeah, you need.
And we were like, right, development in every language until we came to progressus in Latin.
It's always Latin.
It's always Latin.
That's what I mean. It sounds lazy, but when you actually look at it, like there is like on both parts, like there is a deeper meaning behind it.
Definitely.
And you know, there's probably loads of people who like claim that they went on some like mad epiphany to come up with a brand name.
We just went on Google Translate.
Yeah, it's probably just not true. But I think as long as you've got like that direction behind it, and it's purposeful and you know it means something, then I think it stands you in good stead.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, a lot of people with brands as well struggle with the initial promotion. Like obviously when you first create your clothing brand, you're kind of just out there and like, you know, so how did you actually get yourself to, I don't know, starting getting your first customers and just promoting yourself?
So I think when I first started, like if I'm going to be completely honest, like you hear a lot of people who get into business and they're like, oh, you realise who your true friends are when you get into business. If I'm honest, like my true friends were incredible. Like my first drop pretty much sold out and it was like friends of friends. So I was like really, really lucky that I had like a lot of great support from my friends. I'm like very appreciative of that. And to be fair, they're still like that now. But when I first started, in complete honesty, I was in that position. I was very much sort of like spray and pray. So I just like I get the content and get the pictures and stuff like that. I've got no marketing background, and I just post it on Instagram, and I'd be like, "That reel's sick," and it's got 11 likes. Like, what's going on? And probably when I first started, that was kind of I spent way too much time in that position, and it's probably only really this sort of like last 3-4 months where I've actually sort of got like strategical about the marketing, and actually kind of growing the brand that way. But from starting, it was kind of just having that sort of like real core group of friends who wouldn't just order it, like they'd actually wear it around and rep it, and it kind of push it on to their friends, and that's kind of what kept me afloat when I first started, really. And then it's kind of like I say, this last sort of 4 months where I've been more strategical about it.
Nice.
So you said your friends kept you afloat when you first started. How did you go about making that transition to going from like your friends wearing it to trying to get the actual wider public to start wearing it?
Yeah, so I think kind of what I try to do is like visualize like myself as a customer, because that is sort of the kind of the ideal customer that like the brand's kind of built off, and just sort of understand like, right, social media is a very, very difficult game to play. It's a lot of sort of like pay to play now, like with ads, unless you're going to be like super out there and do super like crazy eye catching things like Cortez. But it's kind of, you know, a different sort of brand to what I want to build. So I was like, right, a couple of things that like really motivate me is like brands that show you like the behind the scenes aspect. So I tried to do like a few sort of like mini sort of like docu reels that showed that aspect, which people kind of jumped on and got some good feedback on. And then I think a massive thing for me is like making that physical connection with people. And like some of like the bigger brands that I've seen who do like physical pop-ups and things like that and just bring more value than the actual clothes. And actually getting in front of people, having conversations with people to make people feel like the part of the brand, I think is really, really important. So back in August, I actually had a customer who I didn't know, and he just bought on every drop since like day one. And I just communicated like with him like through the Insta page, and he's super engaged and super supportive. And I actually found out that he had like a terminal illness, and we had a bit of a chat, and I was like, right, we did it very collaboratively, but like, right, let's try and do something to like raise like some money for you and also like help the brand as well. So we put on like basically like our first ever fashion show. We did it at Vodka Revolutions actually in Sheffield. In the Sky Bar. So we did like a charity fashion show. Did like a big after party after and stuff, and it was like dancers, did like a full production, all sorts of things, and like from there we just tried to invite as many people as possible. Like I was like, right, target. We did a little pop up in February, and I think we got like 28 people. And
where were you?
We did it in a studio actually in Sheffield. We did a shoot for a new tea. We invited people to like see it behind the scenes. And then just took a load of drinks down and stuff like that. But that literally was mates. Like there was no one in that room that I didn't know. So I was like, right, I'd be gassed if we can double that and we can get 50 to this event. And I set up like a proper like ticketing system and that just to sort of measure it. And like as it was getting close to the event, like I was just like, who are these people buying tickets? Like, I've not got a clue who these people are. And I think their capacity was like 150.
Yeah.
And we ended up with like nearly like 200 people there.
You're joking.
And it was probably like 25% people that I knew, and the rest were like genuinely people that like I didn't know. And I think just having like creating that like physical presence and giving more value. So like if you bring like a new t-shirt to the market, like if you put 2 t-shirts in a room, and you've got 1 t-shirt that's just another t-shirt that's trying to compete with everyone through Instagram post, like how does that connect with the audience? Whereas if we can bring like a physical event that is not just come and look at the products because I want to sell them to you, but you're going to get to speak to us, we'll tell you about what's coming up, we'll model some exclusive drops that only you guys are going to see, we'll create a bit of a connection for you, we're going to put on like an event for you guys that tonight's probably going to be like, you know, a different event to what's going off in the rest of the city. There's going to be a few free drinks, competitions and things like that thrown in. It's going to be full of like-minded people. Like you're not just coming and looking at the clothes. Like there's more of a community being built there. So that was kind of like doing that physical event, although it's very much a world of like digital and social media, which it is, you've got to be all over that. I think having that physical presence really, really helps you like build that connection with new customers. And I think that kind of like a lot of the people that came to that have then transpired into becoming like really loyal customers. And like, you know, just off the back of like Black Friday week, like we even saw like a few orders from like France, Germany. We even had like an order from Australia, which is like pretty cool.
That's mad. That's mad.
So, because I think like in the minute, like our, like saying not from like a massive marketing background, like our Instagram following is like quite small, but there's quite a good sort of like core cult on there that every drop they just keep coming back, which is really, really good. So I think we're focusing on building.
How did you go about getting word of mouth out about the event? How did you manage to get that many people to turn up? Were you just marketing it on like Instagram and stuff?
Yeah, so pretty much like just putting it out there on Instagram, just getting like friends to share it, like email marketing, things like that. And then I just tried to kind of find like a few sort of like cornerstone people that kind of had like groups like outside my sort of friendship groups and things like that, and sort of like had like, you know, like influencers within their groups that I knew, and just kind of spoke to them and like, right, like sort of, you know, invite your mates and things like that, and just again like kind of honing on that word of mouth too, to get as many people to the event as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say in terms of like that building a relationship and the in-person thing as well, that kind of links to social media anyway, because I'm sure like the more people you get coming, especially if you're putting on a bit of a show, you got the drinks, you got everything like that, it gets people putting it online, it gets people talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure that helps you in terms of gaining more customers and everything like that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think like that night, like because it was for charity, like fair play to the like venue, like they really helped us out and things like that. But like I remember like going up to the bar and like getting some drinks, like the drinks for people and things like that, and like paying for a DJ and stuff like that. And like people like you know, like you're not actually, people like you need to do a shop here, or like, yeah, but people are coming for a night out, they're not going to be want to carry loads of clothes around them.
Yeah,
right. Like, yeah, but you're not going to make any money like off this night. And I'm like, hold on a minute, like we had 200 people there, probably every single person near enough, like, or let's say 100 people like put that on their story, that's then put that into all their audiences. So let's say like, you know, another 100 people see that on their stories, and I probably spent that night like, I don't know, £250 in total. Like you probably wouldn't get that same reach putting that into ad spend.
Yeah, right.
You know,
right.
And as well, when it's actually coming from like a real person that people know, like you say, it's more engaging and more trustworthy than the ad spend. So I think sometimes you just got to look further down the line, and not just try and focus on, right, I want to get like a quick hit now. What's actually going to benefit and help build the brand longer term.
Yeah.
How much did you end up raising?
So I think we raised like just over £1,000.
Oh, that's great.
And like the lad, like he wanted, like the goal for him, like is obviously because of his illness, like his insurance were crazy to like go abroad. Right, so like if we can get enough money to like cover his insurance to go abroad, so raise the money, and then I think like a few weeks later, like he just sent me a picture, he'd bought us a holiday, to like Turkey or something.
Oh man, that's sick. That's so sick, man.
That's super sick. Like so nice to be like involved.
Fulfilling work, like what you were talking about.
Exactly.
What you were talking about earlier. You can't really do that if you're doing a degree apprenticeship.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that's where you've got to try and have them bigger impacts.
Yeah.
And to create that connection with people. So yeah, that was a super good thing to do.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
I think doing stuff like that in terms of having an actual face to the brand as well helps a lot, because a lot of people, I don't know, they want to know who's behind what they're buying rather than just buying something that could be from a random company on the other side of the world or whatever. It's nice having a bit of personality behind it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a difficult kind of game to play, that, because you've kind of got to make sure that you're like represent everything that you see, or everything that people see of you. You've got to make sure like represents and aligns with the brand.
Yeah.
And then as well, like thinking like super long term, I think you always need the brand to be bigger than you are.
Yeah.
Because ultimately there's going to be a phase where there's a new cool kid on the block, there's a new cool brand kind of coming up, and you've got to make sure that you're refreshing and revitalizing your brand to make sure that it can still compete. And ultimately at some point, people change. I'd probably say in the last 6 months, 6 months ago, I was a very different person to what I am now. And it's kind of, if you're changing and the brand's changing like that, people can soon get confused. But I think 100% you're right. Like, if you look at Represent, prime example, they've got like George and Mike who are the face of it. You look at like Mani Devoir with like Reese Barra, who like from a business point of view is out there on loads of podcasts and things that people take great value from. And, I'm still a big believer that people do buy from people. So if you can create that personal brand, then it is a good lever.
Yeah, definitely. I think even with I remember the early stages of Cortez when he used to put like 500 quid in the socks and stuff like that to send out to people, and everyone would be gassed, like everyone's spamming the story, like, I've got the socks,
I've got it.
That.
Yeah, like you say, there's all sorts of like little things like that you can do that I think as we're now getting a bit more strategical about the marketing, that sort of things that we'll look to do and build on.
Yeah.
What's the dude who does Cortez called again?
Clint.
He's a genius. He's an absolute.
He's smashed it, to be fair. There's so many brands now that are doing that kind of, like the password thing and all of that.
Exactly.
It's gone mad.
Yeah, and I think, do you know what? Like probably short term, like to create that kind of like hype, that probably is. And like I have thought about doing that sometimes. It probably would get us quicker results. But I think for kind of the way that I want to build the brand out, like, and having that long-term vision, like sometimes you just got to stay disciplined and understand that, right, do you know what, actually getting a load of like kids to jump on this hype and locking it down, from a next drop, it might make it, it might mean that it sells out within a week. But ultimately there's then potential other customers who, in that kind of older age group who are a bit more sort of like high fashion focused, that probably got like busier lifestyles, who actually think, do you know what, if I want a tee or a hoodie, I want to be able to jump on a website and grab that when it's convenient for me. There's a lot of brands that I've seen that I think, do you know what, I really, really like this brand. But, I'm new to it. They're not like my favourite brand in the world, but I want to go on and check them out. I jump on and I probably bought a tee, but because I need to enter a waiting list and then wait for the drop and then
password.
It's like if people want to give you their money because they want to buy your brand, let them.
It's a blocker, and it's two different models. One's not right and one's not wrong. You can't dispute that is not a great model. It's so good, like say for building up, like you're building up like core fans. It's like when a football club releases tickets for like an away game. You've got to be there, you've got to be on it, you've got to be devoted, and you reward them loyal customers for being there and doing that. But I think there's other ways that we can build that in the long term, make that bigger.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're still pretty early into the journey. You said you've only been doing it for over a year. What's like? Have you had anything so far that's been like a big setback for you, or anything that's made you think, oh, I don't know if I want to carry on doing this?
So a few people might have seen the TikTok, but when we first got started, like I say, with the supplier thing, we thought we found the guys. So I went out, I just got a lot of blanks off people, because it's not too costly. Like people are usually quite willing to send you a blank, and you just pay postage if it's one of their factory ones, or it's not too much money. So we got a few blanks, and I was like, right, basically just a pile of, yeah, these are good, these aren't any good. And then went through the ones that were good, like reviewed the pricing and things like that. And then sent like a few away to actually like get like the proper samples with the designs printed and things like that. Got one back, we're like, right, great, this is the one, perfect. And all the way through this process, the communication was great. They couldn't have done enough for me. Yeah. They were really, really helpful. Like the design was spot on, the pricing was spot on. They were great, replied to my emails like within like 24 hours. Spoke to them over the phone. They were really like proactive, like they'd be ringing me about things, really helpful. Thought, yep, great, sounds good to me. Let's get the bulk order in. Got the bulk order in. No email back, nothing. Made the payment, and obviously, as you can imagine, they were super helpful when I was making the payment.
Yeah.
Made the payment, everything went through, and then like a week later, chased them up. Like, how's everything going? Like, literally got nothing back. A couple of weeks later, chased them up. Literally went ghost. Then they did actually send like a couple of emails, like making some excuses that like the machinery broke or something like that. So at that stage, also like kind of been a little bit naive and like new in the game. I was like, right, I give them like sort of benefit of the doubt. They might be a massive factory producing like thousands of people, and I'm here with my first little order. Like, obviously, I'm not going to be priority for them. I give them a bit of time. Time just went on, and then they literally just fully started ghosting me. So kind of took some advice on it, and then we had to kind of go through like the like sort of CCJ process and go down the legal route.
Really?
And we managed to get the money back. To be
Good.
fair. But that was just like a lesson of like, don't show any mercy. Like if people want it, because I kind of got to a stage where we found the new supplier, like with all the new bits. And I was like, right, do you know what? I'm past it. Like, it's done. I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to kind of like sort of let it hold me back. But like that, essentially, by having that cash flow come back, that like funded the next drop. So we could keep that continuity and we weren't relying on them sales. So like I did get some advice and like, no, like don't let this drop. Like, do not let these get away with it. So whatever size you are, if someone does you like that, then don't show any mercy. Like,
I was going to say, did you go after them and get something back? It's good to hear that you did, because I imagine that like when you're first starting out, you probably have like an amount of capital that you allocated, and you were like, right, we'll work with this. And then once that's gone, it will have been a bit like,
exactly. Because at that time, like we just started, so there was no,
it's a lot of money to just
it was
disappear.
Just personal savings that had been invested into the brand. So obviously, like that took a large amount of that up. And it was like, right, there's no other product. We've got no other money coming into this business yet because we've not even started.
Yeah.
So it was just like, right, I didn't want to stop. I thought, I'm not letting this slow us down. So just a little bit more saving. Went to the new supplier while this cash was still tied up. And then, just thought to get it back. But I
bet you were super cautious with the second
but
supplier.
even like with the second supplier, like with just little things, like when we went to make the payment, they were like, right, like 50% now. And then 50% when you receive the goods. And in my head, I'm thinking, of course. Like, why did I not put in place like other deliverables to like protect myself?
Yeah.
But that's just naive. Like when you're in that headspace where you're super excited about starting a business and you've got a vision for something, and you're on a roll with it, sometimes you let the excitement get the better of you.
It's usually done at the beginning, isn't it?
Yeah, you just got to keep that composure in them times.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously you have spoke a lot about like long term of the business. What do you see for the future? How do you want to take it in terms of, I don't know, collections or just what do you want to do?
Yes, I think for me it's really important from a collection point of view to actually be a fashion brand. And what I mean by that is obviously you see a lot of these brands come up and it is just printing like designs on tees and hoodies. What got me into fashion, like when I was younger, like I remember I used to spend a lot of time with my older cousin. And like of all things, I remember like I used to copy like all the stuff that he wore. And I remember once he came back in like a bright orange like Stone Island jacket, but it was like the nylon metal material.
I remember when everyone used to have them like reflectivey and the purple ones that were like shiny.
I think it was probably that sort of thing, but it was like orange. And I remember
purple shiny stonies.
Yeah.
The nylon metal. Everyone had the overshirts. They were like the shine. You could get them in different colours.
Yeah, the overshirts.
And I remember it was the first time. Like I was quite young at the time. He was quite a bit older than me. And I remember like looking at that. And I was just like mesmerised by it, like just like the material. I was like someone made a jacket out of that, like a different colour shade of orange, like what I'd ever seen. And I'm like, that's super sick. And I think it was near Christmas. And I remember going home and I'm like, oh, have you had to think about what you want for Christmas? And I'm like, that jacket that Reese, my cousin's got. It's like, yeah, you're not having one of them. And then like, I remember like going in, what are you, like flannels in Meadowhall. It used to be called something different before. I can't remember. And I used to just
was it the Phrases or something?
I think that's what, because it's been
there
bought out.
There was a House of Fraser.
The Fraser
There was
Group
a
now.
USC.
I think it was like a little like sort of like independent. I can't remember, but they like in like Meadowhall at the time, they were the ones like selling the best stuff.
Oh, right.
And I used to like, I just really used to go like enjoy like going in and like looking at like different like high fashion like pieces, like how they were cut different or like different materials that they'd use. And then I actually like in sixth form had a part-time job in flannels, and I used to like love like looking at like the sort of more out there things, and like kind of like as well like really like liked how like wearing like unique pieces would sort of make you feel, and like making that an expression of yourself. So kind of going back to that question in terms of collections, I don't just want to, when you get started, you've got to do it because it's what sells, it's your core. But I want to make sure that kind of in terms of collections, we transition into a fashion brand. I'm never going to be price pointed or position myself or want to position myself as like a Louis Vuitton. Fall down from that, but still create sort of really like unique pieces in terms of it being a fashion brand and it not just being another brand that prints on tees. I think in terms of kind of like the growth and the direction, again, kind of relating it like back to me, but I think I've had a lot of experiences like going into like physical like stores and not just going into that store to like buy a new tee or to buy a new pair of trainers or whatever it may be, like going into that store and actually having an experience and kind of feeling like you create a relationship like with that brand. So like I kind of said earlier, like everyone is really pushing online and you've got to be competitive on there. But for me, like I've really got a vision of creating like stores in like key cities, like starting in the UK. So like, let's take Manchester for an example. But the store isn't just like a Zara store where everything's just on a rail. You come, you try your clothes on, you take them away, thanks very much. It's going to be, I want it to be an experience. So like, for example, like we partner with a brand and like you could come in and get a coffee. We'd maybe have like an Xbox in there. You'd have like, you know, like your basketball, like hoop games, like things like that. And it'd be like a bit of like a cultural hub like in the city. So like on a Saturday morning, you might not be coming to buy a new hoodie, but you are kind of ideal customer. There's going to be other like people, like-minded people like you who are potentially dropping in to buy some things or whatever. And just on a Saturday morning, you just come in for a chill for half an hour. Like we'd welcome that and just try and, you know, really use them to like build that community. And potentially we'd have like one-off like sample pieces that like we'd put in there, or we'd have like seamstresses and like garment tech like in there so you could like watch the process and just really like try and make that thing where people feel like connected to us in a way that you don't get with many other brands. So in terms of like the kind of real growth strategy, is probably, you know, not going to come for the next couple of years, but that's kind of the strategy that we want to use to really try and create like long-term and unrivaled connection with people.
We're going to do a live podcast in your store.
In there.
That's what I've been thinking about. That's what I've been thinking about. We'll do a live one in there. Yeah,
sounds like a plan.
It sounds great, bro. I love how like personal you're making it as well. That like prioritizing that customer relationship as well. You know, I think it is definitely going to make it different from all these other brands, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super difficult to do, and I think that like it can get very discouraging at times. Where you kind of like see these like little sort of like not hacks, but like it kind of mass market sort of methods that people are doing. You know, like you look at like TikTok now, like with all like the flashy pop-ups and things like that. Like that's the way to go. Like there's people who are absolutely killing the game with that sort of content, but that doesn't necessarily align with the brand. But you know, that might mean that actually, you know, the social media platforms don't grow as quick and things like that. But I want to play a long-term game with this. And like you say, if it's a little bit harder in the short run to try and build that brand that has that real personal connection with people, so be it. It's just about, you know, staying disciplined, trusting the plan that in the long run, doing that, them harder yards now to build that connection with people and build that as a real cornerstone of the brand will ultimately be what sets us apart in the future.
Nice one.
So is Vitae the only thing that you're working on at the moment? Is that just like Monday to Friday, just all clothes stuff? Or is there anything else that you're doing?
So we've got a couple of projects at the minute. So I kind of got in a position a few months back where I was like, right, to grow this and kind of push it to the next level. Like there's a big trade-off with doing like this and my job. So I kind of need to take that jump. But getting some advice and kind of looking at things, I was like, right, really, I want to keep as much money like in Vitae as possible, so I can just reinvest it, like for the growth of the brand. So I was like, right, do you know what? I don't care. I'm going to leave this job and I'm just going to go work in the gym or something like that. So I remember like going to the gym and like speaking to the kid behind the counter I know quite well, like, do you reckon I could like get any hours in here? And he was like, are you mad? Like, you're going from this like operations manager job or whatever you do to come and work behind the counter in the gym? I'm like, yeah, just like just part of the process. And then like I've got another friend, Jay, you guys know.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jay, absolute class.
Yeah, Jay's cooking, bro. We're gonna talk to Jay in a few months.
And another story, quite a while back, Jay like used to do some reselling stuff that I used to kind of help him out with. And of all things, you might laugh at this, we bought some makeup. And we managed to like resell it and do some like really insane profits on it. We just couldn't get a constant supply. I remember way back then, Jay said, like, right, if we can ever get like a constant supply of makeup, get ready to quit your job. Just like sort of tongue-in-cheek thing. And then actually it was the weekend of my event. Jay couldn't make it, and then on the Sunday he rang me like, do you fancy like going out for some dinner? So me and Jay went out, and he like, remember a few years ago when I said, if I can ever get a consistent supply of makeup, get ready to quit your job? I was like, yeah. You're like, well, quit your job because you've got a constant supply. So like another kind of project that we've got going on at the minute is we like to sell and like cosmetics, like mostly like B2B, and like help like sort of smaller like businesses with their supply and like grow cosmetics businesses too. So completely different world.
Quality. How much knowledge do you have of like between you and Jay? How much knowledge do you have of makeup brands and stuff? Because I don't imagine it's much. But
if the honest answer is very little.
Yeah.
But I think what you find is we both had gone through the process of learning about product, like me in terms of like my own product, from like an operations background, like working in logistics, like all the customers that I work with like things from pet food to kids' toys.
Right.
So we've both got that ability to be able to do the research and find out what we need to know about the product. So it is building. It's just one of them things where it takes a little bit of homework and reading up on and things like that. But we have built like great relationships like with our suppliers, who are experts in that field. Yeah. So it's just about diving into their knowledge, taking what we can from them, and using that network of support around you.
Quality.
Yeah,
quality.
Cool.
It's interesting. Clothing brand and makeup and
cosmetics. Very different. Different sides of the
scale. I guess they all kind of tie together in terms of the behind the scenes part of stuff, don't it? In terms of your getting it out there and
yeah, definitely. I think, like you say, there's fundamental like principles that apply to all different walks of life in business, and it's just about transferring them, but then understanding how you can mold them. To fit that business and be optimal for that business. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of transferable skills from my brand, from my previous degree apprenticeship within logistics and my roles there that can transfer into that. So yeah, there is them transferable skills, but a lot of new things to go at. But I think in anything, like when I first went into logistics, like I didn't know anything about that really. Like when I first started my brand, I didn't know anything about starting a clothing brand. Like we've gone into the makeup, I had the principles, I knew about the business model, but the actual makeup, like I didn't know that much about it. Like by the sounds of it, like when you guys started the podcast, you didn't know loads about it. You had transferable skills.
We literally were just like, oh, let's do it. Found a studio, turned the cameras on, and we were just like, right, Jack, Bailey, and Lyndon.
And I think like if you speak to them guys from Morley too, like a lot of successful people like that you meet seem to just have that mindset and that strategy that, right, I don't know all the answers. I could spend like a year, 2 years going away and reading and researching or whatever. Or I could actually just jump in, hit an obstacle, go, right, I'm not actually jacked up enough on my skills to navigate past this obstacle or solve this problem. But what I will do is I'll learn how to deal with it on the job now and get past it. And that way you just stack up your skills and stack up your results quicker. So I think for anyone, if you're wanting to start something, that old cliche, there's never going to be a right time. You can read as many books as you want. You can watch as many YouTube videos as you want. You can find a mentor. All them things are great and they're going to help you. But to actually accelerate and do things and get results quick, like my strategy is just dive in, find a problem, and don't be naive, don't be stupid, but figure it out while you're there, learn, stack them skills, and then that person who spent 3 years reading, researching, whatever it may be, and not started, by the time you get to that point, if you line yourself up with that person, you're going to be way ahead of them, because you've got all that knowledge, but in real life and in real experience.
Yeah,
it's facts, bro. Facts.
Straight fire out there, isn't it?
How do you go about, one thing that I think must be difficult to do is allocating your time between like the two ventures? I mean, you said you've got other projects going on as well, but how do you balance like gym, eating, sleeping, clothing brand, and everything? That I say clothing brand like it's just another thing, but you're basically running the whole brand yourself. And then the thing with Jay as well, like how do you go about managing your time?
I think I can be a little bit sad with this sort of stuff, in terms of like, I will, like, on an evening, I will quite happily like sit up late at night, like designing or whatever like that, because going back to kind of where we started, and touching on like the apprenticeship and like the Amazon FBA and getting them achievements that don't fulfill you, like things like that, that's when it gets late at night and you think, I don't want to do this. But with the clothing, because it is something that I'm so passionate about, at the end of the day, I love, like really, there's not that many things that I actually enjoy more than doing it. In kind of downtime, probably find me doing that. But it's just about prioritizing, like as silly as it sounds, and just having that discipline, and just using like different ways to like go, right, what are my needle movers? So this week, and then breaking that down into a day, breaking that down into an hour. What are my non-negotiable necessities that I need to do to hit them goals?
Yeah.
And plan them out, because a lot of the time, like people say, look, we're busy, but it's you can be a busy idiot, you can be running around doing things, but what's actually productive? So it's just understanding them essentials. In terms of like that balance, I would say, when you're in our stage, when you're trying to grow something, like get rid of balance. Like if you want to achieve something, like you're going to go through a period of your life where that balance is not there. You've got to be a little bit obsessed in things. But for me, like training, gym is a non-negotiable. Like if I don't do that, I'll feel worse, and that'll transpire. So like that is a cornerstone. Every single day, I'll just find an hour, 2 hours where that's free, and I make sure I do that. That's got to be done. But apart from that, you've just got to be disciplined and prioritising things, really.
Yeah,
you've definitely helped me out with making gym like a non-negotiable.
It's a beast.
It's making it a non-negotiable. It's like a mindset shift.
Definitely.
Of like, rather than working out, it's like we're going to train.
Yeah.
It's like one more. Always one more.
I think it is. I think like people, like when you talk about it, like people who don't do it, like laugh and potentially think, oh, you're just saying that for a camera, like gym. But like it is one of them things that when you get into it,
I think it turns from a chore into like enjoyment as well.
Because there's so many like transferable like skills. Like one thing that the gym taught me, like when I like kind of first got back into it, was like patience. Like that thing of like, if you actually stick to something, like you'll go in, work, no result, work, no result. You don't see anything.
Yeah.
And you stick at it. And then, by being disciplined and by controlling them inputs over time, you get that result. And it kind of just programs your brain to go, right, that was, like now, right, I'm doing all this stuff with the brand. It's not where I want it to be. I'm getting frustrated with it. I'm not getting the result that I want. Well, hold on a minute. Like a few years ago, that was the process in the gym. I went through that same process and I stuck to it and I got that result. So let's keep doing that with the brand. And I think there's just so many transferable things from it.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people as well nowadays, with all these like internet gurus and all that kind of stuff, are so fixated on these kind of like short-term hits, in terms of like, I want fast money, or especially even with like TikTok, you're getting these fucking like quick hits of dopamine in it.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing. It's just quick hits of money, quick hits of this. People don't want to just like, chill and just like enjoy the process, innit? Everyone just wants to get there straight away.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you've got to be, in business, you've got to be fast and aggressive. Like there's so many people that I've seen who potentially aren't the best in their field, but by being fast and aggressive, they can capitalize on opportunities quicker. And you've got to want things and do things with intent. But you are so right. Like there's very like little things that you can actually just jump on and achieve something overnight. A lot of people that you look at who are overnight successes, like if you think someone's done something overnight, go and Google them. I guarantee you they've probably been around for 3 years, and that what looks like an overnight success is a compounding of all that work that they've put in. But yeah, I think there's very sort of little things that are actually out there that are a quick fix. And I think if you want in like that quick fix, if you want in like a quick hit of money, don't start a clothing brand. Do not start a clothing brand, because like especially in this day and age, like you probably look even like 5-6 years ago, like when social media like were first born and things like that, that was such a peak opportunity to like kind of dive in and be the first to pave your way in them sorts of environments. But especially now, like if you're going to do it, you've got to have your long-term head on, because it's tough. Like if you said to me, right, you've got to go and make £1 million next year, the brand wouldn't be probably the vehicle that I'd use to get there. In all honesty, it'd probably be something else, but that's where it comes back to that bigger vision and that bigger purpose.
I really respect like the way that you're going about building the brand as well, man. You're so wise, so young and wise. You've had a lot of experience.
I don't know, I think that's probably, like I said, this last 4 months there's been a lot of times where I've been like, do you know what, actually I've not been that wise there. I could have, if I'd have known that from the start, I could have done that a bit quicker. But that's like I say, by me being,
it's always going to be stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. By me doing this for a year now, it's like I'm at this point. I've made all the mistakes in real life. I've got all that learning, and that'll probably compound me next year. Whereas if I'd have just spent this last year like researching, watching YouTubes, listening to podcasts, reading books, it'd be great. But I've been here without making them mistakes, so I've got all that sort of textbook knowledge, but I've not got the real knowledge. So then me versus hypothetical me in a year's time, the one who's got the real experience is going to be further ahead than the other one. So yeah, you know, even when you sort of don't feel wise and things like that, just jump in, figure it out on the way.
Nice, man.
So good stuff, man. It's been a great conversation. Thank you for having us on, and we'll run it back. We'll run it back every year until you've got your store, and then we'll do one in the store that year.
I best get moving. That's the
nice
plan.
one, bro.
No,
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, man.
Cheers.
Thank you, brother.
Sick.